entertainment tonight, and you're tuned in to the Ken Behrens Show.
Don't go in the water, Mary. Those beautiful legs could be attacked by a shark. Oh, my goodness. Peter Benchley, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Hey, it's a pleasure to talk to you. It really is.
Well, thank you. It's nice to talk to you.
I read Jaws before I saw the movie, and I have read The Creature before the miniseries, which comes out this Sunday, I guess, right, on ABC?
Yes, that's correct. Huh?
You are one terrific writer. You certainly are.
Well, I thank you for that. I never tried it. I didn't do this one either, to write the screenplay for a miniseries. I wrote this as a feature film screenplay, and when the time came for ABC to turn it into a 14-act format, I happily let somebody else do it because I don't know how to write those rhythms.
There is a rhythm to it, huh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, in 3 acts, it's one thing, but in 14 acts, it's a completely different thing. You've got to make sure that each act ends with a page-turner, or, make them want to come back.
Right. And the acts on television, of course, are for the commercial breaks, I assume, right?
Yes, and that, of course, defuses some of the interest right away. So I guess there must be a way to write it so that you remind them where they were before they went to the John or watched the commercials or whatever.
Yeah. Peter Benchley, of course, I have to mention this. I just have to mention it because I admired your grandfather so much. Robert Benchley was your grandfather, one of America's greatest humorists, and he also had his hand in motion pictures, too. He did some films, didn't he?
48 features and I think about 60 shorts. Yeah, well, those were in the days when you could do 10 or 15 feature films a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was an actor and a writer and a humorist. In the days when there were short films before movies, the short subjects as they called, he was doing those all the time from 1929, which was when the Treasurer's Report came out, until he died in 1945. So I, to say the least, didn't know him well.
Mm-hmm. I remember Foreign Correspondent, I think, an Alfred Hitchcock film.
Yeah, uh-huh. Joel McCrea.
Right. He described with distaste his drinking of milk.
Yes, he was on the wagon for some strange reason at the time.
But it was funny. You've written a couple of comedy books, too, huh? Or funny books?
Yes, I did. One called Q Clearance about my days as a speechwriter for Lyndon Johnson, and then another one called Rummies. And they were both, humor being so subjective that it's hard to find a large audience for them. But they're among my favorites of my own stuff, only because it's very hard to write comedy that one likes, and subjective as it is, at least I have to like it before I'll write it.
Right. Everybody remembers the movie Jaws. Of course, Steven Spielberg put that on film. And were you happy with it? You must have been happy with it.
Yes, it took me a long time to realize what was going on in terms of the changes. I wrote a couple of drafts of it and stayed much too faithful to the book. And then when the very gracious producers, Dick Zanuck and David Brown, relieved me of my necessity to continue writing this, they pointed out that there are a great many changes between media. And I didn't understand for a long time why certain changes were being made, but every time Spielberg would make a change, especially in the ending, he was absolutely right that the demands of movies are completely different storytelling demands than the demands of books.
But you get him hooked right off the bat. I remember in Jaws, the young girl who runs stripping her clothes off on the beach, goes into the water, and then we see her get tugged under. You describe that very well in the book, and of course Spielberg stuck with that when he made the film.
Yes, he did. Well, that of course is a very powerful opening image, and it was successful in the book, and I think very successful in the film too. Stephen was very good. He never changed anything that didn't need to be changed.
1945, I believe, is when this story starts out. The Creature.
It does in the book. Again, in television, different imperatives. They felt that nobody remembered World War II. So better to change it to Vietnam, which is still alive in people's memories.
Right.
So that's their imperative.
Without giving too much away, it's a great story. This is, in fact, it's described the shark in Jaws as a goldfish compared to the creature. We're getting biotech in this thing, aren't we?
Yes, this was based on some research that was done in Duke in the 1960s when they were trying to create an amphibious human being, basically, and. The idea was to put gills in a person and see if human beings could obtain oxygen from water the way fish do. And it succeeded for 14 hours. They did flood a man's lungs, and then...
They really did?
Yes, but it was in a laboratory. The man was never let loose with his lungs flooded. And even Cousteau and other people were saying this is the future of diving, getting amphibious humans. And the invention of robotics and remote cameras made it unnecessary. So they stopped with it. And all I did was take the what-if scenario. Suppose they had continued with this, and it had been during the war. And just at the end of the war, the Germans had almost completed one of these, and it got loose. And got loose actually in the early 90s in my story. Now, what they did in the television version to make it more contemporary is they made it Vietnam.
Okay. I understand.
Okay.
Can't believe that. I guess I'm getting up in age where I can't believe people might not remember World War II.
I know. Isn't that horrible?
But there are people who don't remember Vietnam.
Yes.
So, yeah. The whole thing reminds me of how accurate you are in your depictions. You must love the sea. I mean, you talk about going down. How deep do you have to get before everything gets pitch black dark? Oh, half a mile below the surface or something like that?
Well, the actual loss of all light, I think about 2,000 feet plus. But basically, practically speaking, for human beings, there's almost no light at 400 feet. You can't see anything. There is light, and you could see an image technically, but in terms of practical vision, no, you don't have any vision at 400 or 500 feet. But yeah, right. Loss of light at half a mile.
Do you spend a lot of time in the water, or
much as possible? Yeah, for every time I get off, I go to the ocean, either on it or under it or around it or something. So yeah, I enjoy it very much.
Just the way you describe the bends and all sorts of things like that in the story, I think. Coming up too fast, it's a problem. You can get, I guess, like an air bubble or something.
It's called an embolism. Yeah, when the air wants to come out faster than your mouth will let it come out, and so what it does is it jams, and the nitrogen jams in your joints, or the air does rather, and you'll get a bubble, and that can cause an embolism, can pop out through your lungs or your brain or anything else, and either kill you or cripple you.
Right. We're talking with Peter Benchley. We're going to be back in just a minute. If you have a quick question for him. Talk about a talented writer. This is a thrill to talk with you. So you wrote the Jaws. I think you also wrote The Deep, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
the Island, was that yours?
Yes, that was mine. And then a bunch of others that weren't made into movies. And then Beast, which was written as a feature film, and then became a television miniseries instead.
Wow. Talk about some talent here. It's 15 minutes in front of 11 at WJBC. Back in just one moment. The Creature is going to be on ABC this weekend. It starts at 8 o'clock our time, I believe, on Sunday, and also Monday night. It's a 2-night miniseries. We are fascinated with water and the sea. I guess you take a look at motion pictures like the Titanic, and Peter Benchley has been writing about stories that involve the water for a long time. They say to write what you know about. You must know a lot about the sea, as we've said.
Yes, everything I've written has basically been centered on something having to do with my life. So I've either done the things that are in the books, or are planning to do them, or have heard about them and intend to get involved with them.
Do you have any idea where your story is going to go? Do you have an ending before you even start?
No. I don't like to, because it makes it quite boring. If you know where it's going to end, then you have no suspense in your own story, and if at least you better enjoy the process of the writing, because if you don't, there's precious little else left.
But you have to get it written within a certain amount of pages, don't you?
No. I mean, it's just the story tells its own length. It tells you how long it wants to be. And, of course, with computers now, one of the editor's main complaints at publishing houses is the computers give people the facility to overwrite at endless length. Mm-hmm. So you'll see these great 4-pound books, thudding down into the market.
Right. I guess authors have been doing this for a long time, but it seems to me on television, we haven't seen a whole lot of these multi-level themes. I guess maybe Larry Gelbart was the first to do it with MASH, where he had different things going on at one time. And Seinfeld, of course, which wraps up tonight, is one of those shows where you had more than one story going on at one time.
Yes, boy, that's well written. When you realize how difficult that must be. For me, the prototype of those shows was Fawlty Towers.
I guess that's right.
When you see they took 6 weeks to write each one of those episodes with 2 writers, John Cleese and whoever wrote with him, and to be able to structure those things so carefully so that everything happens in 22 minutes and you can wrap up 4 stories is just amazing to watch the craft.
How they bring them together.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you do that when you're writing. You're cutting back and forth between scenes.
Yeah, oh, indeed. It's just to be able to do it in 22 minutes, talk about a limitation. That's
What else do you want to say about Creature? We only have a minute or so left, and I know you're doing a whole bunch of these today.
Well, I think that the monster, as created by Stan Winston, who is the master of all creatures great and small, is absolutely wonderful. He has taken it far beyond my wildest imagination and has created a truly great movie monster. So I think that regardless of what anybody thinks about the rest of the picture, that one should stay tuned to see the monster, because it takes special effects a whole new step into the future.
Wow, and that's saying something, because I always say you can always imagine much greater in your own head sometimes. But boy, these special effects that they're doing these days.
Well, when done with the genius of a Stan Winston, you're right. Yeah.
Peter, thank you very, very much.
Well, it's my pleasure, Ken.
Peter Benchley, the gentleman who wrote The Creature, which is out in book form, and also on an ABC miniseries starting this Sunday night on ABC, obviously, at 8 o'clock. It'll be on Sunday and Monday. Good luck. I hope we get a chance to talk down the road sometime.
Thanks very much.
It's 11 minutes in front of 11 at WJBC.